After helping people create their inspired work for over 15 years now, I have learned that the ability to bring your work into the world comes down to one thing: commitment. In this video, I want to share with you some tips to help yourself make that commitment to the long journey of creating, even when you just don't want to. Make a conscious decision to commit. When you make that internal decision for yourself, that's when your energy lines up and says, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're creating. And remind yourself of what you're creating and why. This is about having a vision. And a vision is not a goal. It's not about a thing you're trying to create in the world. A vision is about the world you're creating. And your work is a part of that. Your work is a contribution. So what is it you're bringing into the world and why? What is its contribution to the world? Accept the stage of the journey you're at. You might be at the beginning, you might be in the middle, you might be well into it, and acknowledge that each of these stages has its own challenges. In the beginning, we might get overwhelmed by everything we have to do and how long the journey is ahead of us. When we're in the middle, we might start to get bored at the repetitive nature of it, having to iterate through the same things again. Or when we're well into it, we might become overly attached to our work and start to over-identify with it, and we lose perspective and we can't actually see what needs to happen. Reclaim your energy by letting go of any obligations that are no longer serving you. A couple of years ago for me, I checked in with myself. I felt overextended and I noticed that I had all of these obligations to my community. I was volunteering on this board, I was helping out with this organization. And what I noticed that all that energy was not really having any impact in my community. So I made the decision to let those obligations go. And what I did was I reclaimed that energy for myself, and I invested that energy into myself and my work so that the work I was doing actually had the best opportunity to make an impact and really help people. Do whatever it takes to get in motion. We all know the hardest part of anything is getting started, whether it's going for a hike, it's getting out the door, whether it's cleaning the house, it's getting that vacuum out of the closet. But we also know that once we get over that inertia of inaction and we actually stay in motion. So do whatever it takes to just get yourself through that first initial hard part, and then you will find yourself having the energy to keep going. Find consistency by establishing your working rhythm. Consistency is key. And when it comes to work and creating, we're really conditioned around the whole Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 thing, but that's not a rhythm that works for everybody. You have to really know what your own rhythms are and put yourself into that rhythm and align your work, your creative work, with your life rhythm. When you do that, chances are it'll feel more natural and you'll have more likelihood to actually put yourself into creative action. And once you have established that rhythm, put your creative time in your calendar, schedule it in your calendar. We all know that if we don't do that, life will fill in all that time. There will always be other things to do or other reasons why not to create. Make sure you schedule your creative time in your calendar. Act as if time doesn't matter. And what I mean by that is, when we're creating under urgency or under deadline, that is the biggest creativity killer that there is. So it's not to say those deadlines don't exist. They might be there, or there might actually be some urgency, but create as if there isn't. Again, chances are you'll be more open, more receptive, and more likely to get into your creative action. And even if time doesn't matter, create as if your work does matter. Your work is an act of self-love. It is a way of you saying to yourself that I matter and that what I do in the world matters. Show up for yourself, whether you feel like it or not. So many people wait for the inspiration to create, and that's not how it actually works. When you get yourself into the conditions for creating and you start moving and you start the action, you get into a more receptive state, you open up, and that's when the energy starts to flow. And that's what inspiration is. If you need more support, think about joining a community of like-hearted creators. Chances are there are other people out there in the world who are at a similar stage you're at or are creating something similar to what you're doing. So be a part of the group, contribute, and benefit from the wisdom of group. If you want to hold yourself accountable, one of the best ways to do it is to hire a coach. And this is where I come in. So many people think a coach is about having answers or wisdom. And that's not actually what the best use of a coach is. It really is just that there's someone else who's witnessing your journey, who you're reporting to, and it helps keep you accountable to your own process. Take it one step at a time. What I see people doing is they're trying to make too big of a leap. They're trying to go from the beginning of their journey to the end of their journey in one big leap. We all know that the most successful journeys are those of 1,000 small steps. So just focus on what is the next logical step. Stick with your idea until you bring it to fruition. I'm guilty of this. Whenever I get into the middle of the creative journey, I start to get a little bit bored with the repetitiveness of it. And I want to go back to the beginning where it's all exciting. But what happens is I miss out on the satisfaction of fully realizing an idea and bringing it to life. And embrace the evolutionary nature of creating. It never ends. Once you bring an idea to realization, that it opens up a possibility of all kinds of new ideas. So it's just one idea, then the next, and the next. So instead of trying to get to some sense of endedness or completion, just relax into the unfolding. And finally, stop watching this video and go get creating. Remove yourself from the distractions. Yes, creating is uncertain and it's unknown and it's an unending process. But if you make the commitment one step at a time to bringing your work into the world, you will experience the fulfillment of a creative life and the world will benefit from you and your work. So I hope some of these tips, you can use them to help yourself stay committed to the long creative process, because the world needs you and needs your work to come to life. Happy creating, everyone.